Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I want to bring you guys my my new 20C build for the Heist 3.12 League start that I'll be running. So it's basically a totem build, bringing back another dead build from its grave. It is a very tanky build with a lot of damage and very good clear speed. We are once again going to be using, taking advantage, I should say, of ball lightning because of its inherent good damage and also its usability and flexibility. Now, one thing to note is that the end game is not going to be ball lightning. This video is only going to cover ball lightning because this is going to be a first part of the two videos I'll be making, and this part is going to be solely talking about the leveling and how to level this build, the different skill trees, the different skill gems that you're going to be using, and all that. And I'll have another video for the end game of the build talking about basically when we transition over to Glacial Cascade, which is going to be our true end game around level 90. But in this video, I want to keep it simple, fairly short, and talking about basically just the leveling portion of the game. If you're wondering, it's a pretty fast build. I did a run yesterday, a fresh run, and it took me 4 hours and 6 minutes to get to maps, which is on par with my ball lightning miner, maybe even potentially faster, due to the fact that you never really stop moving, unlike a miner build, which you have to sit there and throw mines. You can pretty much just put your totems down and keep going, so it does end up being faster, I believe. So real quickly, I want to go over all the different skill trees, what you're going to be getting, and how the build functions. Now, I said this is going to be a two-part video, and the second part is going to cover the end game, which is going to be Glacial Cascade, but this video is basically going to cover the whole skill tree and explain the different mechanics and how they work together, because in the end, the skill tree is not going to change a single point when we actually do transition to our end game build. What will change is the items that we're using and whatnot, and obviously the fact that we're going to be investing into cluster jewels later, so around level 90 or so. So this video is going to cover the early game, how to level it, and explaining basically what's going on with the different mechanics, because you'll see it is a fairly I guess you could say fairly complicated build that has a lot of things intertwined together that make it work. So for Merveil, we're basically going to be starting as a Templar. Quick note though, in the skill setup, in the path of building that I'll be linking in the tree, that I'll be linking in the description down below, I'll have all the different skills and when you change and which gem setup and which links you will want to be using in there. So that it becomes that is really easy to follow for everybody, and that there's no like, oh, what's the better skill gem there, what should I be using in terms of support gems. Every single thing is going to be in the path of building. So if you don't really care about understanding the build or whatever and knowing what it does and how it does it, you can just take the POB and run with it and save yourself some time there. That being said, to cover the leveling, we're basically going to be rushing Retribution, Discipline and Training, then Light of Divinity and Holy Dominion. And this is what our skill tree is going to be looking like when we kill Merveil around level 12. So as you can see, we have 14 points used. So this is exactly what our tree looks like when we kill Merveil around level 12, alongside having our 2 skill points from the different quests. Then for Val Oversoul, we are rushing Elemental Overload after getting these 2 nodes here and the additional life. We're going to rush Elemental Overload and then get to Divine Judgment as fast as possible. Now, the pathing might look inefficient, but that is basically because we're going to be using this for a cluster jewel later, and we want to be, like I said, we're not going to be respeccing any points out of the tree. The whole build is going to stay the exact same. So Elemental Overload alongside this little cluster of nodes here with Divine Judgment is essentially almost our entire damage for the whole build. We're not going to be getting much more damage than that. And this here, your damage for Val Oversoul, alongside 2 of the crafted wands for Act 2, which gives us tier 6 flat lightning damage to spells, is all you need to clear all the way up to basically red maps. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's the best damage in the world, and I wouldn't advise you try to clear red maps on like a 5-link Soul Mantle and some tier 2 wand crafts, but it can be done. And yesterday I did a T14 map, I believe, and while it took a while, it is actually doable. It's just obviously not very quick, considering there's pretty much almost no damage on these wands, but to explain how to make these wands, basically you're going to be using a magic wand alongside an orb of alteration, and then a ring, which could be either ruby, sapphire, or topaz, depending on which flat elemental you want. Now, of course, we want lightning. Cold is also acceptable, but lightning is more damage overall. So we are going to be wanting a topaz ring, and we want it to be rare, because that is going to give us a level 20 wand craft, which is tier 6. You could also use a magic ring. That is going to be giving you a T7 flat lightning, which is level 14. Or you could even use a white one, which is level 8, and that is going to give you T8. Now, personally, I skipped the white and magic because I rushed through Act 1 and 2, so I really tend to not have enough currency to do these wand crafts very often. So I want to make sure that by the end of Act 2, I have everything required to be making these 2 wands. So the easiest way to go about this is that you grab wands with the proper links that you need. So for example, I like to grab a blue alongside a blue green. That is the 2 main links that I'll be using for the entirety of the campaign, and then I'll be using a transmute on each of them to make them magic, and then I'll sell them with 1 alteration and a rare topaz ring. Now, how do you get rare topaz ring easily? Is simple. You grab an iron ring and you sell it with a green gem. That is going to give you a topaz ring, and then use an essence on them. So it is very important in the 2 first acts that when you do find an essence, that you actually go ahead and kill it, because you're going to be needing 2 essences to make these 2 wands, which are going to carry you all the way to maps very, very easily, as I'll showcase in a minute. So that's basically going to be your tree for Val Oversoul. For Dominus, you'll see that all that changes that we grab life. So we grab life and recovery here, we grab more life there, and more life there. That's really all that we're getting, is that we are grabbing life, and we are starting to path downwards because we are going to be making our way towards the Scion life wheel. Now, what changes is that around Malachi, actually, I personally like to do lab in Crystal Veins in Act 4, because I'll be around level 32, 33 at that point, which is perfect to do lab for me. So this is where I'll be doing lab, and as soon as I do lab, I'm going to be transitioning over from self-cast, basically a regular caster setup, which is Orb of Storms and Stormblast Mines alongside Double Herald, and I'll be switching over to totems. At that point, I'll be using Ball Lightning and Wrath. Now, again, in the skills, I'll have every single setup, and when you change them from your auras to, you know, different links, and everything is going to be in the skills section, so you can just have a look at that and not have to worry about it. Otherwise, basically, this is when we transition to totems. So after getting all the life from Act 3, in Act 4, we are actually going to start getting a little bit extra damage, which is going to be Shamanistic Fury. It's mostly just because the placement speed is just good quality of life more than anything else. So it's a lot of placement speed, which is good quality of life, like I said. And then we're going to make our way to Ancestral Bond. And once we do, after doing the first lab, we are going to get Pursuit of Faith, which gives us 2 totems. And then as soon as we're done that, the fastest we can, we're going to get Ancestral Bond for the 3rd totem, at which points we have 3 totems, and our clear speed and damage is going to be insane. Like I said, you pretty much just put the totem down and you keep walking, and the totem just kills everything. And you have 3 of them, so it's pretty damn good. Now, this is going to be exponentially better once you get Ritual of Awakening in Act 8, because at that point, you're going to be basically summoning 2 totems at once. So it means less actual totem summoning and more damage being done. It's just really good quality of life. And overall, just a very solid choice. Also, sorry about that. So that's basically going to be what you're going to do in Act 4. So Act 5 Kitava, you'll see that nothing really changes on the tree, except that we get more life, more mana, because we are going to be Mind Over Matter and Agnostic, which I'll explain a little bit later. So we grab life and mana as much as possible, and then we start making our way towards the Scion life wheel, because the end game is to get Supreme Ego. So at level 70, your tree should look something like this. We are basically getting every bit of life and mana that we can on the tree. So life, mana, life and mana, life and mana, life, mana, life, mana, mana, lots of life, and then mana. So the reason that we're getting this much mana, as I said, is that we are Mind Over Matter, which means that 30% of the damage taken is taken from mana before life, which basically means that we take 30% reduced damage. On top of that, once we get Uber Lab, we are going to get Divine Guidance, which is another 10% of damage taken from mana before life. So that's 40%. And then we also get Battle Rouse, which is 10% of damage gained as mana over 4 seconds when hit. So that's another 15% less damage taken, for a total of 50% less damage taken, which is further reduced through endurance charges, which we get through Conviction of Power, and also further reduced through different, defense mechanics, such as, Steel Skin on your left mouse clicks, giving you pretty damn good bit of defense there, like 1300 shield, and that is only at level 16, so that is going to get a lot better as the game progresses. You have about a 50% uptime or so, close to a 50% uptime on Steel Skin, so it is very good defense layers, and the reason for that is because we have Dynamo, which gives us guard skills have 25% increased duration, and also recover 20% of mana over 1 second when you use a guard skill. So when you do use Dynamo, when you do use Steel Skin, it's going to proc Dynamo, which is basically going to be regenerating a lot of your mana, which is going to take care of all your mana issues ever, and taking care of your mana issues basically makes you a lot more tanky because you are mind over matter, but you are also agnostic, which is where the fun begins, because agnostic gives you that your maximum energy shield is 0, but while not on full life, so anytime that you're missing a single life point, you're sacrificing 20% of your mana to recover that much life. So around the end game, you'll have about 3,000 mana, well geared around level 90, 92 or so, about 2,500 to 3,000 mana depending on your gear. So that is up to like 600 life per second that you're regenerating from agnostic as soon as you are not full life, on top of the fact that you're taking 50% less damage because all of that is being taken from mana, and endurance charges, Steel Skin, etc. So like I said at the beginning of the video, the biggest advantage of this build is that it is extremely tanky. So this build is right now, I'm level 70, so I might be a little bit high level. But I'll just show you guys, I just want to quickly showcase what the build looks like. The other video that I'll be making about the end game, I'll talk about more like the actual end game and whatnot, but I just want to showcase really what the build looks like. So this is basically just a 3-link Soul Mantle. It's a pseudo 5 or 4 link because we get spell totems from the Soul Mantle itself. But what we're going to be using is we're using Overstorms or Stormbrand, it's up to you, to proc Elemental Overload through increased critical strike support, which we get in Act 6. Again, everything's going to be under the skills section. And then on top of that, we have a curse on hit conductivity, so we are cursing basically everything that we kill. We are running a single aura, which is Wrath, because we are going to be Supreme Ego later. So the reason why we go Supreme Ego is the time we go Supreme Ego is when we get Essence Worm, because then we can put in a Wrath or for the end game that's going to be Hatred in there, and that is going to make our gem reserve no mana. So our entire mana pool is actually going to be available for defense purposes, which is really, really big. And then we're going to be taking advantage of the fact that we're self-cursing ourselves through these random level 20 curses when our totems die, through the usage of self-flagellation, which gives us up to almost 200% increased damage because we can curse ourselves with about 10 curses. Now, early game, we are not going to be able to nullify all these different curses and their effect. So what we do is we use an Enduring Mana Flask, which is basically going to be up and running at all times, which is going to make us immune to curses. But that means that we can't use the extra 20% damage from the self-flagellation jewel. So what happens is that later into the game, when we transition into Essence Worm, when we transition into Glacial Cascade with Supreme Ego, we are going to be using a Crusader Ring for 35% reduced effective curses. Then we get another 20% from the tree, and then we get another 40% from Numbing Elixir. But that is something that I'll cover in the next video, where I'll talk about the end game. Now, I really wanted to cover the leveling section and really just quickly showcase what the build looks like. Now, I was actually doing some tests. I did some Aziri runs yesterday and some yellow maps with no life flask and just entirely surviving off the agnostic and mind over matter, just to showcase how stupidly tanky the build can be. And it is really, really tanky. So as you can see, the playstyle is just kind of run, put the totems down, make sure to always have your mana flask running, because as soon as your mana flask is not running, you're no longer immune to curses. And then you pretty much just let your totems do their thing as you are just walking through. Now, if there was a way to easily get phasing, which there is through obviously a quartz flask, that would be pretty good because it would let you basically just walk through while your totems do the killing. But as you can see, like your totems just kind of own everything. And I'm not even like proccing EO right now. Now I procced EO and my damage just went up like crazy. So I pretty much mostly just one-shot everything. And of course now I'm level 70, but I'm also using a 3-link. So this is a pretty reasonable showcase. Because most of my skill points on my tree is actually not damage, but survivability. Because as I said, this build is really focused on being a tank. Now it's focused on being a tank, but it can easily clear like Awakener 8 Cyrus with like a 5-link and some weapons that are probably going to cost like a couple chaos each, because getting weapons that are better than this is essentially just slapping an essence of woe and then crafting lightning damage to spells, which is 2 alks, and then you have weapons that are about like 3 times better than this. So it is very, very easy to get a lot more damage. But as I showcased on stream yesterday, we did some Adzeris and I even did some red maps. Now red maps were pushing a little bit. It was very doable, but obviously at this point survivability was the biggest issue, just due to the fact that my gear is absolute garbage. But on a 5-link, this build will take Awakener 8 Cyrus down very, very reliably, especially once you get to the point where you are getting Supreme Ego, getting into the cluster jewel stacking and all that. And it is not quite going to respect the 20 chaos budget for the endgame variant of the build, but it is easily going to get to red maps within about a 20C budget of pretty much just a soul mantle, a self-flagellation jewel, and then a cluster that makes you immune to curses. That's pretty much all you need. And then also a Crusader ring, item level 75. You just get reduced curses on you and you're pretty much done with the build. That will carry you all the way up to red maps easily with under 20 chaos. Now the end game setup is obviously going to be more than 20 chaos, but that was to be expected. Another advantage of this build is that you can run some MF gear on it, which I will be doing in early game, because obviously I'm a big fan of the chaos recipe. I've said it many times. So I'll be running things like Orc's for the 50% rarity. I'll probably be running a Perendus Blazon, which is pretty much my go-to MF items, but that's something to talk about in another video. For now, that's basically the showcase of the build and how to level it to maps in about 4 hours. It could have been actually about 10 to 15 minutes faster, because I was doing some things with stream during that time, uploading some stuff, whatever. So we actually lost a bit of time there. But yeah, it is definitely a top tier contender, in my opinion, for the upcoming Heist League, and I can easily recommend it to anybody. It is also super noob friendly, because it is a totem build, which means you can pretty much, if you're worried about anything, you can pretty much just put your totems down and then follow them along while you just follow behind. So you are very safe, and it is obviously going to be a hardcore recommended build due to the fact that it is so very tanky with tons of different layers of defense, which you can obviously make even better through the use of like Quartz Flask and any other defense flasks. Now the actual build endgame would be to use a Wise Oak and a Taste of Hate. Taste of Hate being when we go over and transition to Glacial Cascade, but it is not necessary. Wise Oak, though, is a big boost in damage, but that is easily acquired for about 2 chaos at the very beginning of the league, especially for a bad roll. So pretty damn cheap build that will clear all content all the way up to red maps. At which point we are going to transition into Glacial Cascade, and Glacial Cascade is what's going to push us all the way to Awakener 8 Cyrus, again on a very cheap budget, not quite 20 chaos, but that's something I'll cover in the second part of the video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, before I go, I want to say a huge thank you to my supporters: Mario, Lura420, Gaikona, Kfish, Dr. Radu, Scott, Zarashi, Kevin, Cassicus, and Matus, as well as anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous, and of course anybody else who has supported me in the past. Big thanks to you guys, and let me know if you try out this build and you do some practice runs, how it goes. And POB is going to be in the description with every single gem setup when you swap to them and whatnot. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.